This is you. This is your friend Pedro, and this is how we do it. I remember watching Last E3 with my boys, and in between being distracted by some of the horrendous anal fissures that the big companies were showing off, there was a relatively short trailer for this game, My Friend Pedro. It went on my wishlist, and then a few days ago it came out, and well, it was a blast. My Friend Pedro was developed by Dead Toast Entertainment, and is based off the popular Flash game of the same name. You assume the role of who is accompanied by his friend, Pedro, who is a floating banana who guides you on an acid trip of revenge and general vague murder through a series of more and more bizarre landscapes until you decide to do it all over again to try and get a score that's, I don't know, maybe even in the same continent as the high score? You awaken in a basement of a mafia hideout and are taught some of the more basic mechanics: jump, roll, shoot, and at its core you could certainly say that that's what this game really is. You are given a variety of weapons as the game progresses, but mostly you will always be running, jumping and shooting, all likely simultaneously. But where this game excels is in its drip feeding of new mechanics and its commitment to variety in every individual level. We'll start with the slow-mo button. This is a mechanic that's introduced very early on, but immediately it gets you to thinking about how you can handle different engagements, because not only do you cause time to go slower and turn the fucking radial blur up to 100 so you can't fucking see, but it also affects the way that you move. Adding a sick front flip to your murder spree is absolutely always worth it. Another interesting mechanic is your ability to T-pose like an absolutely legendary Angel of the North looking lad, in order to shoot in two directions at once. This is yet another thing that allows you to acquire style points like an absolute madman as you carve your way through goons with utter precision. This will likely be your signature move for most of the game, and the reasons for that are twofold. A, it's efficient, and B, it looks cool. Further mechanics are presented to you in a much more intuitive way that is very aware of the fact that you are not a brain-dead moron. For example, I'm about to show you something that would make 2011 Egoraptor shit his pants. I come into this level and am prompted to pull a lever to continue, and then I am shown another lever that is just out of my reach. At this point in the game I've been told two things. Number one, I can shoot guns with left click, and number two, I can pull levers. Congratulations, you just did a bit of game design, but it doesn't stop there. A bit later on the game wants to teach us that these little targets will ricochet bullets, but well, how can they teach us that? By making us need to shoot a lever, a thing which the game has taught us we must do, but making it inaccessible. So what the fuck do you expect me to do? I'm going to shoot the fucking yellow thing. Bing bang bosh, game design. Each section of the game, more or less, has its own mechanic to show you, and most of them are built upon the foundations of mechanics you've already had the time to become accustomed with, from hooks to lasers to alarm systems. For its short runtime you are always presented with something new to challenge and entertain you. So after you are rudely awoken by Pedro, who I must remind you is a floating banana, he basically just tells you to start murdering people, so I guess murder sprees have been started for worse reasons. Pedro will lead you through a series of areas that will get you thinking, wow, I sure do love concrete. At least you'd better, because quite frankly this game may excel in T-posed induced carnage, but it certainly fails in terms of visuals. For the most part it's a dull grey affair with dodgy character models and aliasing jaggier than Adam Levine. You'd think that for a game with such a dicks out premise you'd be seeing a lot less construction sites and sewers and a lot more, well, this. In the course of your Hotline Miami style rampage, you'll encounter a few boss levels. These are levels where the core of the game is changed in some way. In the very first boss level you go from playing a side-scrolling shooter to being engaged in a high-speed chase on motorbike whilst you now control your forwards and backwards movement rather than your left to right movement. And it also gives you a freaking wheelie button. But once this gimmick starts to wear off, the game moves on, and it was all a nice exercise in variety. Later you'll find yourself falling from a building or using a helicopter as a hat in a similar mix-up of mechanics. With Pedro's guidance you'll find yourself moving through a number of interesting areas such as sewers where the hardcore gamers have truly risen up in order to enact revenge on a few people, from this fucking guy to this fucking guy to the dictator of the internet herself, who is being protected by her legions of ISPs, or internet service protectors. Dodging and shooting your way through the plot of this game is ultimately not the point, and as such the story is of course not the focus. The goal is ultimately speed.
Speed, I'm speed. Float like a Cadillac, sting like a Beamer.
And you can rest assured you'll be hitting the reset button harder than you hit that dab on the dance floor, because getting this perfect is what life is truly about. If you're a high score hunting, number loving, coin collecting calculator of a person, then I couldn't recommend this game enough just on that basis. Your ability to go as fast as the rocket car in Hit and Run is further augmented by environmental objects such as rideable barrels, skateboards and ropes, because this game feels as much like a parkour game as it does a blam blam sillet bang game. And weirdly, I feel that that's a problem. My friend Pedro excels at being a show-offy shooter where killing people in fancy ways is more important than just the simple act of killing them. And when you're free to do that in unison with the game's movement mechanics in order to straight flex on these polygonal gangsters, the game is great. However, at some point the game seems to switch from being a shooting game with some tricks to being a parkour game with some shooting for a number of stages. And these stages are by far the weakest the game has to offer. Lumbering through a slow parkour course or navigating a laser maze just isn't as fun as propelling lead like a gypsy throwing tiles from a church roof. And the fact that even any percentage of this game is taken up by levels that are just boring parkour with no shooting is an extra problem because it's short as fuck. All in all, I'd say I certainly enjoyed myself. In fact, I was in absolute hysterics at some points during my play, and the soundtrack alone is enough to buy this game for. My friend Pedro ultimately turned out to be exactly what it looked like on the tin. A very action-packed, fast experience with a focus on dramatic flair. It is, however, hellishly short, so if you're planning on buying it just to play it once without replaying it, then even for the 2,000 yen, it just doesn't feel like it's a good enough bang for your buck. But I don't know, man, maybe you're one of those loaded Spotify premium kind of people, and maybe you don't care. As far as I'm concerned though, I think I'm gonna go play through it again. I give it a out of 10.
Bananas in pajamas are coming down the stairs. Bananas in pajamas are coming down in pairs. Bananas in pajamas are chasing teddy bears. 'Cause on Tuesdays they all try to catch them unaware.